The following story and photos are from Giant Panda King's book, Gotham 1919 to 1939, by Russell S. Beatty. Viewer discretion is advised.
Trust in yourself, even when you are filled with doubt.
In the grand scheme of history, sometimes the smallest choices can have the biggest consequences. This was definitely the case for Edmund Dorrance, otherwise known by his alias King Snake. Decades before becoming the leader of the fearsome ghost dragons, Dorrance had worked for another cruel institution. The corrupt government of Mexico had employed his mercenary prowess prior to the Mexican Civil War. Dorrance was tasked with finding, torturing, and killing the enemies of the government at any cost. Dorrance grew in apathy, cruelty, and reputation through this vile work. In spite of this darkness, there was one light in Dorrance's life. An indigenous woman that he fell in love with and married in Santa Prisca, Mexico. They had children together, and Dorrance showed a tenderness to them that no one else experienced from the mercenary. Most people who had the misfortune of meeting King Snake met a swift end. His family knew only seeming affection from him. When the Mexican Civil War began, Dorrance fled the country in exile. He showed his true colors and did this knowing full well the consequences. To make an example of his betrayal, the government imprisoned his wife and children on the prison island of Peña Duro. Over the course of many years, Dorrance's wife and most of his children are believed to have perished. Peña Duro was a hellhole of a prison, and only the strongest survived. One of Dorrance's children fought tooth and claw to survive. This child honed himself physically and mentally, any chance that he could find. His rage was what kept him going, hate for those around him and for his father who had left him to die. With no formal education, he sought knowledge from the other inmates around him. Every fight that he found himself in was a combat lesson. Every conversation was an opportunity to learn a number of languages. He learned the art of lucha libre wrestling and excelled at it. Dorrance's sole surviving son showed the others around him that he would never back down, and that he was a force to be reckoned with. He achieved this by breaking the spirit of his enemies, as well as their bones. He outsmarted his rivals at every turn due to his sharp mind. By the time the child had reached the age of 17, he was a battle-hardened weapon. This living hell that he had grown up in had been his crucible. He earned a name for himself in Peña Duro due to his tenacity and resilience. He crafted a mask for himself like a luchador. It was like a rebirth for him. No one could best him, and so his name was Bane. Just when Bane thought he had risen to the top, Peña Duro found a new way to crush its inmates' spirits. Life was cheap here, and the government had interests of their own. Foreign scientists were allowed entry to the prison, their minds set on experimentation. The inmates were unsure of what exactly was being tested, but the fear and tension it created was palpable. Inmates were taken to laboratories and would not return. Many assumed that they were dead. Bane was not afraid, however. He was enraged at the scientists. These scientists continued conducting cruel tests and experiments. Years later, their actions would be likened to those of Japanese Unit 731 and the German human experiments during World War II. The compound that these scientists were testing proved deadly to almost everyone they used it on. It was an enhancement steroid that they hoped would improve the performance of soldiers in combat. Inmate after inmate was exposed to the compound. Some died screaming in pain, others died silently, choking on their own blood. The compound earned the nickname Venom from the inmates due to its deadly nature. Eventually, even Bane was experimented on. They exposed him to the Venom compound, and it was the single most excruciating experience of his life. Bane felt as if fire burned in his veins. There were many times when he felt that he was near his end, but his rage would reignite, and he would push through. In the end, he was the only survivor, and he was the experiment's only success. Unbeknownst to the scientists, Bane had been observing and taking note of how the Venom compound was made. With his newfound strength, Bane broke out of the facility and murdered everyone working on the production and experimentation of Venom. Chaos ensued, and as Peña Duro burned, Bane found himself smiling in triumph. Even those who sought to put him in his place had failed. The experiments and the Venom had awoken a new desire within him, to test his power against worthy opponents. Bane started his own production of Venom, enlisting some of the former inmates who had escaped with him. He spent the following years seeking out foes and destroying them, breaking them mentally and physically. Bane did not care who he murdered, ravaged, or crushed. All he cared about was the power that Venom gave him. The one person who eluded Bane was the person who had initially sparked this hatred within him, his father, King Snake. Bane looked for any information he could regarding his father, but to no avail. It was only when he learned of Dorance's death in prison that he knew where his father had been. Months after the events of the Shadow War, Bane turned his sights on Gotham City. He sought to test the mettle of the so-called heroes that had bested his father and the League of Assassins. Gotham would have its reckoning, and Bane would break the bat, body and soul.